straight into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. Personalities make sports that much more interesting. It's what draws fans to it, and they are the focal point, the reason why you watch a sport that much more fervently. Like Indian cricketer Sanju Samson, one of the most enduring characters, much loved in the sport. A super talent, but just not good enough. That's what we are led to believe. The inconsistency, too huge a factor, going against him. But is the tide changing? Are we finally seeing the real beast mode of Sanju Samson? And is he staking his claim for the Indian squad going for the T20 World Cup? Fighting to contention seems to be the theme today. Magnus Carlsen saying he wouldn't expect much from the inexperienced Indians at the candidates tournament seems to have struck a chord with the youngsters. The Indian charge seems serious at the most prestigious tournament, and the man leading it all is a fearless teenager, D Gukesh. What is it about being young and fearless? Barcelona fights hard against the much fancied Kylian Mbappe to come out with a win against Paris Saint Germain, and the young brigade is what showed the way for Barcelona. Keeping the feisty Mbappe in check. Lots line up for you today on the show, but first, let's start with Sports 360. We'll start with football. Inter Miami crashed out of the CONCACAF Champions Cup in Lionel Messi's comeback match. Mexican side Monterrey beat Inter Miami 5-2 on aggregate. Messi was brought to the starting lineup for the first time after his month-long injury absence. Athletics has become the first event at the Paris Olympics to award prize money to its gold medalists. This will only be for champions who are participating in the track and field events. Athletes who win gold will take home a prize money of $50,000. Prize money for silver and bronze medalists have been planned from the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. Over in tennis, men's world number 2 Jannik Sinner reached the round of 16 at the Monte Carlo Masters. He defeated American Sebastian Corda 6-1, 6-2 in straight sets. In the doubles category, it was a setback for Rohan Bopanna and Matthew Ebden. The world number 1 pair have crashed out of the Monte Carlo Masters in the round of 16. Baseball star Shohei Ohtani's former interpreter Ippei Mizuhara is negotiating to plead guilty. Mizuhara was fired by the Los Angeles Dodgers on allegations that he paid out at least $4.5 million in gambling debts via Ohtani's account. And over in badminton, ace Indian shuttlers PV Sindhu secured a first-round victory at the Badminton Asia Championships. She downed Malaysia's Goh Yin Wei 18-21, 21-14, 21-19 in the men's singles event. India's top-ranked shuttler HS Pranoy also reached the round of 16 at the same tournament. In a grueling battle, he defeated Lu Guangzhou of China 17-21, 23-21, 23-21. The T20 league is hotting up and the race for the playoffs are truly on. Rajasthan is still at the top of the points table despite the loss against Gujarat last night. But I'm not going to talk about that game that was Rajasthan's to lose and Gujarat's run chase heroics. Rajasthan, despite the loss, is looking solid for another season. They've been one of the most well-balanced sides in the tournament, and though the bowling is probably a cause for concern, with key bowlers in the ranks picking up niggles, the batting has been commendable, particularly from captain Sanju Samson. There's always a lot expected of him every year when this comes around, because Samson is one such player where the possibility of what can exist seems to overpower and entice people more than what is. The prospect of what Sanju Samson can be day in and day out is more daunting and intimidating than what we finally see. Sanju Samson always carried that tag of the inconsistent genius. You never really know which Samson will turn up on the day. So you have to plan for the destruction if you are the opposition and pray for the best if you are on his side. A Samson in full flow can be destructively beautiful. He's a talent that is rare, exciting, and has always tugged on fans' heartstrings, because Samson is that curious player who is so good enough to lead an IPL side and be one of the prospects for the Indian national team, yet is not nearly good enough to be a permanent fixture in the Indian setup. But today we speak about Samson 2.0, in fact, how Sanju Samson is breaking myths this season, shattering the inconsistent Samson tag that he ends up carrying every year when the league comes around. I was going over the numbers of his first 5 innings every year since 2019, that's last 5 years. This is the first time that he's scored 3 half centuries in the first 5 innings. Since 2019, every year he has started with a bang and has gone on to a whimper, except this one. The fact that the opening combination is also not firing probably puts that added pressure and onus on Samson to deliver. Probably it's the batter at number 4 who's also turned a new leaf, Riyan Parag, that is also giving Samson the freedom to be at his explosive best. Nevertheless, Sanju Samson is in the runs. The other notable difference this season compared to the previous ones is his strike rate and his average against spin. He seems to have particularly worked on that. He's averaging more than he has against spin this season as compared to when he did since 2020, and shows he's definitely worked on targeting spinners. You see the difference on the numbers there between his overall figures against spin and that from the year 2020. There's a difference. He's definitely worked on targeting spinners. He's not just sharpened his aggressive game, which is his identity. Samson cannot be a play it safe kind of batter. If he's in your batting lineup, you have to expect the flair. In addition to that, what he's done is worked on playing spin. That average of 50 is stark and telling. He seems to be taking more time, adjusting and getting into the right positions to go for the big shots against spinners. He has solidified his role as an anchor in the middle overs. He's recognized that, and he's going for how best he can give that impetus for his team in the middle order, in the middle overs, where spin function the most. And clearly, captaincy has never been a burden. He's been calm and composed every single time he's out there. We've all seen him mature as a captain, as a leader over the years, thanks to the Rajasthan management and the faith that they've had in him. He will, of course, rue the game last night that they lost. It was theirs to lose after a good show with the bat and a solid performance to get Gujarat batters on the mat in response. Missing key bowlers in action showed up in the way Rajasthan crumbled in the last 2 overs in particular. But Sanju Samson has a very, very calm, unfazed head on his shoulders. Well, if it's Rajasthan's near misses or woeful seasons that he's been a part of, or his flirtatious relationship with the Indian national team selectors, all of those reasons enough to get him to be grounded and rooted in the here and the now. And we are now seeing the maturity as a batter coming through as well, the same that we saw a glimpse of in South Africa when he scored that 100 in conditions that were tough and a challenge for any batter. The question is, are we seeing a kind of Sanju Samson his ardent fans and lovers of his talent were really hoping for? The perfect mix of stable aggression, sense and flair. Is he making a strong case for his inclusion in the T20 World Cup? He has stiff competition for the number 1 spot in Rishabh Pant, who's also in a comeback trail of sorts. And if backup keeper is it, then there's Dhruv Jurel, his own teammate, KL Rahul in the fringes, Ishan Kishan hoping for a turn in favour and fortune. Sanju Samson's experience and unique skills ought to make him a forward, a contender, a stark contender in this. But as we know, as ardent fans of the Sanju Samson story know, there is still games to go on in this league and the audition is still on. Sanju Samson will have to stay the course of consistency to create that dent and swing selection in his favour, and for that, there is a while to go. The beauty of sport is that age really doesn't define your merit, not in theory and certainly not in practice too. The biggest proof is being dished out at the Chess Candidates Tournament. The Candidates Tournament is underway in Toronto, and it is the most prestigious chess tournament that features the top 8 in the world, the best in the world. We gave you a short preview of that right here. There's of course a lot at stake here when the best battle each other. I remember Magnus Carlsen coming out saying he'd be surprised to see an Indian win this thing. Here's exactly what he had said to set up this tournament.
I do think the old guys are favourites this time, specifically Nakamura, Caruana and Nepomniachtchi. Nakamura and Caruana are the best and the most consistent players there. It would be surprising if Alireza wins, but if any of the other 4 win, it would be a shock.
Now don't come at me saying here we go again and that Carlsen was only being practical and fair in his assessment. True, but that brings me back to the starting point. Sure, experience is the tool every sport falls back on. But we are being constantly proved otherwise. This year, in fact, has belonged to the youngsters, the teenagers, who are taking the world of sport by storm. Whether it is the youngest darts champion, the teen who defeated Tetris, the world number 1 para archer, or Domaraju Gukesh, the teenager who is creating quite the stir at the candidates tournament. At just 17 years of age, he has been clinical, mature and absolutely astute in his display. Gukesh broke a few records by just making it so far. Gukesh is sharing the top spot with Ian Nepomniachtchi. He's the second youngest to feature at the candidates tournament. Only the legendary Bobby Fischer at 16 took part in this, and that was decades ago in 1959. And after the completion of 6 rounds at the candidates tournament, Gukesh is sharing the top spot with the most fancied to win. Gukesh played out a 6-hour-long marathon game against Nihat Abusov and won that game. It wasn't just the victory that stood out, it was the manner in which Gukesh sealed that top spot. A calm and composed youngster waiting for his opponent to falter. You know, chess is a sedentary sport, but it is physically draining. Any chess player of a stature will tell you 6 hours of a mentally brutal game is physically draining. Just before the last move, Gukesh in fact stood up and walked about, pacing to keep his mind alert, waiting for his opponent to fall into the checkmate gambit. There was no way out for Abusov after that grueling game. In fact, Gukesh addressed the press at the tournament and he was asked who did he fear the most facing. The tournament has some of the best in the business, barring of course Magnus Carlsen, who pulled out of the tournament himself. Now, Gukesh takes a beat to answer that, but says no one before giving a shy smile. That tenacity to win at all costs and fear no one is highly commendable. To think that Gukesh wouldn't have even been a part of this tournament. He in fact just about barely managed to qualify in here. He came in right at the end, just sneaked right in. His compatriots Vidit Gujrathi and Praggnanandhaa, the more fancied ones, qualified through singles events by winning the FIDE World Cup and the FIDE Grand Swiss event. Gukesh qualified through the long, winding FIDE circuit route. And when he was trying to better his ratings to qualify for the tournament, his results started dipping and faltering. The pressure was getting to him, and just when it seemed like he wouldn't make it, came the Grandmasters event in India's city of Chennai, and he qualified through that in December. Many, including Carlsen, Magnus Carlsen, had in fact written off Gukesh, which is why his performance is the highlight of the tournament so far. Here's a chess master who has had no history of the sport in his family. His father is a surgeon, mother a microbiologist, a far cry from sport, let alone chess. But his passion is what motivated him. He started playing at the age of 7, became the second youngest grandmaster at the age of 12 in December 2019, beat Magnus Carlsen some years later in 2022. So the success he's enjoying currently at the tournament probably comes as little surprise. Before the tournament began, all eyes were on Praggnanandhaa, the highest ranked Indian at the candidates event. He's holding his ground too. He's at the 3rd spot alongside Fabiano Caruana. And yes, there are still a few more rounds to go and 11 more days. That's a while to hold your ground and even better it. The tournament is a rigorous one and has a very competitive, tedious process to it. It requires patience and playing the long game, which is where experience comes in. But Gukesh is already showing glimpses of what is possible in the games that have taken place so far. Now is when the mental toll will begin to set in, so the most difficult stretch is yet to begin. Club football's biggest stage, Champions League, produced a spectacle in the past 2 days. The first legs of the Champions League quarterfinals have been delivered, and while some of the giants couldn't be separated just yet, we saw winners on the second day. While Atletico beat Dortmund 2-1 in the first leg, the focus was on the Barcelona-Paris Saint Germain clash. It was a young Barcelona squad taking on a very potent PSG side, a star-studded Parisian unit that includes Kylian Mbappe. But despite all the PSG firepower, Barcelona came from behind to seal a 3-2 victory. Kylian Mbappe was ghosted throughout the game. It was the Barcelona DNA that came out strong. Maybe a reality check for Mbappe as he's poised to join Real Madrid next season, that Barcelona aren't walkovers even at their lowest point.
Champions League in Spain is like a match made in heaven. Spain has amassed 19 Champions League titles. Out of those 19, 5 belong to Barcelona. A clear indication that they have what it takes to be champions. History, legacy, and that hunger to win under any circumstances ought to have passed on hands, as was witnessed last night. Paris Saint Germain hosted Barcelona in the first leg of the quarter-final. And because Barcelona aren't the same force that they once used to be, and PSG were playing at home, they headed into this game as the strong favourites. But a young Barcelona side defied all odds in an impressive come-from-behind win. It was Raphinha's double that sealed the game in Barcelona's favour. He had never scored in the Champions League before this game, and his first couldn't have come at a better time. The Brazilian delivered when it mattered the most. It was his pace that outdid the PSG defence, and a swift Raphinha freely moved in the penalty area. The 27-year-old had a total of 6 shots at goal, the most by any player on the day. And he's not done just yet. With one more leg left to seal the win, Raphinha aspires to go for glory.
These last few weeks, we've been working very hard in training. To come here and to return home with a win is pretty positive, I would say. Winning is important, but the tie is nowhere near finished.
It wasn't just Raphinha that staged the Barcelona comeback. With scores level at 2-2, it needed something exceptional to seal the deal. Andreas Christensen then came off the bench to head the winner from a corner. But what won Barcelona the game was not the goals scored alone, but that sturdy, rock-hard defence. A defence that haunted PSG and Kylian Mbappe in particular. Pau Cubarsí, the 17-year-old academy player for Barcelona, was one of the best defenders against PSG, with a 95.29% pass accuracy. Jules Koundé too was a huge asset for Barcelona. He consistently marked Mbappe, giving him no room to free up and even attempt to score. Proving that the Barcelona DNA is too good for PSG, and giving PSG boss Luis Enrique a taste of his own medicine, who was boasting that he was more Barca than his opponent.
Who better represents the spirit of Barca? Without a doubt, it's me. It's not just my opinion. Look at the data. In terms of ball possession, goal scoring opportunities, high pressure, titles, trophies. Some may think differently, but without a doubt, it's me.
Guess that was all talk and no show. Clearly his counterpart Xavi executed it better than he and his team. The win will give a big boost to Xavi too, who aims to bring Barcelona back up to its glory days. For one man, this loss would be the most bitter pill to swallow, Kylian Mbappe. This was a reality check, that even if Barcelona are not at their prime, they will come out of nowhere to stifle him. Mbappe may be PSG's greatest ever. He's won a lot of domestic tournaments with this side, but one thing that has eluded him is a Champions League title. So the third quarter-final clash against Barcelona was key for Mbappe personally. With him touted to leave next season, a Champions Trophy title with his boyhood club is the stuff of dreams, putting him in the spotlight to shine. But the game told a story far from it. From poor passes to leaving ball possession and far too many missed chances, the young Barcelona squad was too good for the World Cup winner. The pressure on him to come back strong in the return second leg is immense. Can Mbappe bounce back and end his last season with PSG on a high?
Time for last serve. It is the age of gaming, virtual reality, esports. If you did not know it already, you just have to believe it, especially when you see the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, meeting India's top gamers and even trying his hand at it. Quite exciting that, but that does it here on Firstpost. Thanks so much for joining, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, bye-bye.